All right, Boxplot's page 2, not day 2, page 2. I'm making a modified box plot with outliers. So I just kind of added these little stars out here. You don't have to make them stars. I just did that to really show what they are. So these outside stars are your outliers. Notice we don't connect to them. All the other points are almost the same. These 3 points in the middle are still Q1, median, and Q3. These 2 points change a little. They are the smallest number that's not an outlier and the biggest number that's not an outlier. We are going to need to check for outliers. So outliers are numbers that are smaller than Q1 minus 1.5 times the interquartile range, or numbers that are bigger than Q3 plus 1.5 times the interquartile range. The interquartile range is just Q3 minus Q1. It's like the range, but it's just the range of this box instead of the range of all the data. All right, so for this example, you can use a calculator or computer program to find the 5-number summary. If you found one online or have a TI-83, that's fine, or 84, whatever. So I just reminded us how to do it by hand, though. I put all the numbers in order. The smallest number is 0, the biggest number is 19. I cut the numbers in half. 4 plus 5 divided by 2, our median is 4.5. The bottom half I cut in half, so Q1 is 2.5. The upper half I cut in half, and Q3 is 8. So we want to check for outliers. Outliers being numbers that are extreme. They're either much bigger or much smaller than the rest of the data. Now, just because we think a number is an outlier doesn't mean it is. So that's why we actually have to use these formulas to check and see if it actually is. So first thing is to find the IQR, interquartile range. So Q3 minus Q1 is 5.5. So then I'm going to use these two formulas. So Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. So 2.5 minus 1.5 times 5.5 is negative 5.75. And then Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR, which is 8 plus 1.5 times 5.5, which is 16.25. Now, anything that's smaller than the negative 5.75 is an outlier. Well, our smallest number is 0, so we don't have any outliers on the left end. And anything bigger than 16.25 is an outlier, so 19 is bigger, so 19 is an outlier. So when I make my box plot, I graph the 19 as the outlier. I use these 4 numbers, but then this 5th dot is the next largest number that's not an outlier, which in this case is the number 11. So I plotted 0, 2.5, 4.5, 8, 11, and the outlier. So these 5 numbers make our box plot, and then the outlier is just a separate point. Now, because of that outlier, that means the majority of the data is on the left, and then we have a little bit of data over here to the right. So the number of DVDs rented is right skewed with a median of 4.5 DVDs. 50% of the time they rented 2.5 to 8 DVDs. 1 month they rented a whopping 19 DVDs. So that's just, making up some sentences describing this data. There's a lot more things we could say, but we just need to throw in a few things there. And notice in context, I didn't just say numbers, I said specifically renting DVDs. Obviously this problem needs to be updated since we don't rent DVDs anymore, but I'll try to get to that next year. All right, that's the end of page 2.